Final Fantasy 3 is boring. And I don't mean, oh, it's a bit slow kind of boring. I mean, it feels like the game is stalling for time while you wander around fixing problems that don't matter. Which is weird because when I decided to play the Pixel remasters, I thought I would see this game slowly evolve into the series that I love. But instead, we got, well, let's talk about it. When I started this script, I thought I would follow the same kind of structure I had for the first two games. I would highlight the story, look at the mechanics, compare them to later games, but about 2/3 of the way through this game, I realized something. I don't care. This game is boring. Now, maybe if I played this game when it first came out, it would have felt groundbreaking, but I played the later games first. I've been spoiled, so now all I see is filler. And speaking of filler, the premise is simple. The world runs on crystals, the crystals are bricked, and you need to get them unbricked, because this is Final Fantasy, and it is always crystals. Your team? 4 color-swapped orphans suddenly entrusted with saving the entire world because of reasons. But between cleansing the crystals, you're just doing stuff. Climb a mountain to get a spell you already have. Save a prince and free his king from an evil advisor, completely unrelated to the crystals. Calm a sea monster because a rat stole a jewel. None of it matters until a point at the end of the game when it slaps on a reason. You need 5 people who are pure of heart to break a curse. Oh, and luckily, the 5 people you randomly decided to help for no reason all happen to be pure of heart. How convenient. Glad all my time wasting actually had a purpose. The first game may have been nothing but fetch quests, but at least it felt like everything you're doing was for a reason. And the second game may have had a generic Empire vs. Rebellion story, but at least it felt like you were always progressing towards a goal. Final Fantasy 3, you're just doing stuff until the reason for that stuff is slapped on at the end. Which leads to the other problem I had with this game. Final Fantasy 1 had a story and mechanics that were fine. Final Fantasy 2 had worse mechanics but a much better story, and Final Fantasy 3 is a mixed bag. The job system's better. In Final Fantasy 1, you picked jobs at the beginning of the game and you were stuck with them. Final Fantasy 2 got rid of the job system altogether. Anyone could just be anything. And Final Fantasy 3 brought back the job system, but you could switch them on the fly. You unlocked more jobs as you went through the game, and each job had its own level. Great system. But the magic system is worse. Final Fantasy 2 introduced the standard MP system, but Final Fantasy 3 brings back magic slots, which makes the red mage almost entirely useless. You can't fit all of the white spells and black spells you want into a limited number of slots. And the story? Light, dark, balanced, destiny, warriors, whatever. And for no reason, they nerfed the airship. The first airship you get can't even fly, and you wreck it right after you get it. You eventually get better ships, but what's the point of giving me an airship if you're not going to give me an airship? But to be fair, it's not all bad. Final Fantasy 3 does have some genuinely interesting ideas. One of those airships, it can go underwater. It unlocks new areas, new dungeons. You have spells like Minnie and Toad that you can use outside of battle to unlock new areas, like a gnome village that won't let you in unless you're tiny, or an underwater dungeon that you have to be a frog to get through. Which is fun in theory, but there is one dungeon where you have to be small, and when you're small, your weapons don't work. You have to rely on magic, which makes half your party useless. I ended up avoiding most of the fights just because it was tedious to get through, and that's not my idea of fun. Oh, and secret passages. At first, they just hold treasures, but by the end of the game, they're entire mazes of secret passages. I hope you like walking up against walls. While we're on the subject of exploring, let's talk about the map. The starting world map, it looks like a bullseye. There's a ring of water in the middle, a ring of land around that, ring of water, ring of land, more water. Later, when you get a real airship, you actually discover that that is just one piece of land in a larger world. But in the beginning, there's nothing in that larger world. An earthquake flooded it, so it's mostly water. Later, another earthquake will unlock more land, and then the map gets a little more interesting. But the problem with this expanding world is that sometimes the game doesn't give you any clue on where you're supposed to go next. I don't need a waypoint or a glowing line to point me in the right direction, but give me an NPC who's talking about a rumor they heard or a story about a place, so I at least have some idea where I'm supposed to go. Dropping me in a giant empty world and then saying, go find the story just adds to the meandering feeling of this whole game. And so at this point, I was wondering, why is the world even like this? Once upon a time, the ancients abused the powers of the light crystals, so they created the warriors of darkness to restore balance. But now darkness is taking over, so you're the warriors of light. Enter Xanda, an ex-student of a master wizard named Noah. Noah gave his 3 students gifts. Doga got power, Une got control of dreams, Xande got to be human. And Xanda was so mad about his mortality that he drained the crystals of all their energy to stop time and live forever. Which, as a mortal, I get it. And that all brings us to the grand finale. After clearing the crystals, it's on to Xanda's palace, which is basically one giant boss rush. Eureka, full of the best weapons, each guarded by a boss. 4 ribbons, each guarded by a boss. And you need to help the 4 warriors of darkness, each guarded by a boss. One of the bosses, the 2-headed dragon, could one-shot my entire team. He was harder than the final boss. And the final boss has 1 attack, Particle Beam. You use it on every turn. So as long as you keep your party healed and your magic up, you can't lose. And that's it. You get an ending about keeping hope through the darkness. You drop everybody back off at home and the credits roll. A slog of an ending for a slog of a game. My only hope is that Final Fantasy IV brings a little light back into the series. That's just what I think. Tell me what you think in the comments down below, good or bad, let me hear it. And while you're down there, if you could hit the like and subscribe buttons, I'd really appreciate it. I'll see you next time.